My name is Linda Patton, and 3 nights ago my entire engagement and everything I thought I understood about love, loyalty, and respect collapsed inside a downtown Italian restaurant. My boyfriend Oliver and I had been together for 2 years, engaged for 6 months. Up until recently, I truly believed we were a stable, loving couple, preparing for a beautiful future together. I knew we came from different worlds. My parents are modest, blue-collar people, the kind who pack their own lunches and never complain about long days. His family, on the other hand, is pure suburban luxury country club memberships, polished dining rooms they barely use, and vacations they book first and budget later. But I never expected those differences to become weapons. The dinner was supposed to be simple, both families meeting to finalize rehearsal dinner details. Nothing grand, just an evening with pasta, wine, and conversation. At least that's what my parents thought. Oliver's parents arrived in designer outfits that looked more suited for a gala than a warm, candle-lit trattoria. They weren't rude at first, just stiff, studying everything, the decor, the waiters, even my mom's sweater, with an expression that made me wish I'd picked a place with white tablecloths and gold accents. Still, we managed small talk while menus rustled and glasses were filled. But calm doesn't last long when people have expectations they've already decided are superior. Oliver's mother was the first to steer the evening into dangerous territory. We were considering hosting the rehearsal dinner at the country club. She said a statement disguised as a suggestion. The East Ballroom has such gorgeous windows. It's very elegant. My mom smiled politely. Oh, that sounds lovely. What's the cost looking like? About $15,000, Oliver's mother replied breezily, as if she were announcing the price of a bouquet. My dad almost inhaled his water. $15,000 for a rehearsal dinner. Oliver's father chuckled. It's not just dinner, it's an experience. A wedding should be memorable. My dad's jaw tightened in a small movement, but enough to make my stomach knot. I'm sure it'll be memorable at half that price. Silence fell, the kind that grows teeth. Oliver quickly stepped in. Well, we all know rehearsal dinners are traditionally the bride's family's responsibility, right? We budgeted $5,000, my mom said, which we thought was plenty. That's already a stretch for us, but we're happy to do what we can. Maybe we could split. No, Oliver interrupted sharply, as if the very idea offended him. We can't have the rehearsal dinner at some budget venue. My colleagues will be there. Our friends. It's important. Budget venue. The phrase sliced through the air. My father lowered his utensils, eyes narrowing. Before he could speak, Oliver's mother whispered loudly to her husband, I told you this would be difficult. Different classes have different standards. My mom's cheeks flushed, not angry red, but embarrassed red, the kind that breaks a child's heart instantly. I felt heat rising under my skin. Oliver didn't even flinch. My mom attempted diplomacy again. We're willing to contribute what we can. Maybe we could find something smaller. But Oliver rolled his eyes. Actually rolled them. Split it, no. That's not how it works. The bride's family pays. That's tradition. Traditionally, my father said quietly, rehearsal dinners are affordable, not luxury events. That's when it happened. Oliver leaned back, gesturing dismissively toward my parents. Maybe if some people hadn't spent their lives in low-class jobs, they'd understand how real weddings work. But I guess we can't expect trash to understand elegance. The room went silent. Even the waiter approaching with grated cheese froze mid-step. Trash. My parents. The people who raised me. The people who gave me everything they could, even when they had so little. My mom looked as if she'd been slapped. My dad stared at his hands, knuckles white. And Oliver, he didn't even seem to understand the magnitude of what he'd said. He just kept talking. I mean, it's the reality. We're from different worlds. They'll just have to accept. Interesting, I said quietly. It was the only word that made it out of my mouth. But inside, something stopped like a switch flipped from hurt to cold. Oliver's father blinked at me. What's interesting, I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, found the $5,000 check I had written 2 weeks earlier, a gift Oliver asked me to cover for his parents' anniversary cruise. One tap. Payment canceled. Just handling some banking, I said softly. Anyway, about the rehearsal dinner, there won't be one. Oliver frowned. What are you talking about? The wedding is canceled, I said, finally lifting my eyes to his. We're done. His mother gasped. His father stiffened. Oliver stared as if I'd spoken in another language. Linda, stop being dramatic, he said. You're overreacting. You called my parents trash, I said. There's nothing dramatic about ending a relationship with someone who disrespects the people who raised me. I didn't. I was just making a point. And so am I. I stood, placed cash for my parents' meals on the table, and turned to his parents. Oh, and about that cruise gift I was paying for, the check won't clear. You can handle your own vacation." His mother shot to her feet. "You what?" "You heard me." I gathered my purse, stepped closer to my parents, and said gently, "Let's go." Walking out of that restaurant with my parents beside me felt like breaking the surface after being underwater too long. Air burning my lungs, clarity cutting sharp and bright. Behind us, Oliver kept calling my name, his voice echoing through the dining room, but I didn't turn around. Not once. Not after everything inside me had already turned to stone. I didn't sleep the night after the disaster at the restaurant. None of us did. My parents and I sat at their small kitchen table until the sky started turning gray, the silence thick with disbelief. My mom brewed tea she never touched. My dad kept tightening and loosening the same wrench, his hands moving out of habit, his mind somewhere else entirely. They both kept trying to make sense of it. "Maybe he didn't mean it," my mom murmured gently, folding a dish towel she'd already folded twice. "Maybe he was overwhelmed." "Mom," I said softly, "he called you trash." She winced as if hearing the word again stung just as sharply. People say things they regret when emotions run high. And that excuses it. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Her eyes said everything she wanted to believe the best in people, even when they showed her the worst parts of themselves. It's one of the reasons I love her. It's also one of the reasons people have taken advantage of her kindness her whole life. My dad finally muttered, "He insulted our family. End of story." The wrench clicked, hard. He stared at it, not saying another word. By morning, my phone had blown up. Missed calls stacked like dominoes. New texts blinking every few seconds. Oliver. His mother. His sister. People I hadn't spoken to in years. Unknown numbers. Long messages, short messages, angry messages, pleading ones. I blocked them all. The house felt strangely quiet without my phone vibrating every few seconds. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that lets your thoughts echo a little too loudly. Around noon, an unfamiliar number appeared on my screen again. A voice on the other end introduced himself as someone from our wedding venue. "Hi, Ms. Patton. We received a request to cancel your booking. The person claimed to be you, but the signature didn't match your file." I closed my eyes. Of course Oliver would try to beat me to it. "That wasn't me," I said calmly. "I'll cancel it myself now. Please process it under my account." The deposit, $2,500, was gone immediately. It should have hurt more than it did. Instead, I just felt lighter, like every dollar I lost was buying back a piece of my self-respect. The coordinator hesitated before adding, "Your fiancé seemed very upset he couldn't cancel first." A small dark part of me found that satisfying. Later that evening, Oliver sent me an email with the subject line, "We need to talk about this maturely." 12 paragraphs. 12 paragraphs of explanations that weren't apologies. He blamed wedding stress. He blamed pressure. He blamed timing. He blamed the heat of the moment. He didn't blame himself. Not once did he say, "I'm sorry for calling your parents low-class trash." I read the entire thing only to send one line back. "You meant every word. We're done." Then I deleted the message and blocked his email. The next morning at work, security called my desk. "Ms. Patton, someone is here demanding to speak with you." I didn't need their description. I already knew. Oliver's mother stood in the lobby. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, her voice echoing across the room as she gestured wildly at the security desk. "How could you do this to us? Do you have any idea how humiliated we are? How could you just cancel the cruise?" Her voice cracked, but it didn't sound like heartbreak, more like someone upset about losing a luxury they already believed they deserved. I kept my tone smooth, even, more or less humiliated than my parents felt when your son called them trash. "That was a misunderstanding," she snapped. "Did he apologize to them?" I asked. "He apologized to you in the email he sent. He explained himself." I corrected. "That's not the same thing. Did he apologize to my parents?" Her silence answered for her. "The cruise was non-refundable," she finally said, voice breaking. "We lost deposits. Our account is overdrawn because we counted on that check." "That sounds like poor planning," I said. Her mouth fell open. "You said you'd pay for it." "I said that before your son showed me who he really is." She leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "This is financial abuse. I'll sue you." For what I asked. I never signed anything. It was a gift, and gifts can be revoked before they're received. Ask a lawyer. Security escorted her out, while she shouted about how she'd never been treated this way. My boss watched from the balcony above, then met me at my desk. "You okay?" he asked. "I will be." He nodded. "Good for you. No one disrespects your family." That night, my parents tried to pretend things were normal. My mom made dinner. My dad asked about work. But every few minutes they slipped into silence again, as if the reality of what happened was settling into the walls, the floor, the air around us. The worst part was seeing the hurt in their eyes. They didn't deserve this. They didn't deserve to feel small in a world where they had spent decades working hard and keeping their dignity. I went to bed early, but sleep didn't come. My mind replayed the dinner over and over, the tone of Oliver's voice, the look on my mom's face, the way my dad's hands had trembled even though he tried to hide it. And then, somewhere between midnight and morning, I remembered the engagement ring, the one that belonged to my grandmother, a ring I had cherished more for its history than its value. Oliver still had it, and I knew without even checking my messages that getting it back would be a battle of its own. By the time Saturday morning arrived, the day I was supposed to pick up my belongings from the apartment Oliver and I once shared, I was past anger, past hurt, past shock. All that remained was a strange, steady calm, the kind you feel right before a storm breaks, the kind that tells you whatever happens today, you won't be the one losing control. Oliver's sister had texted earlier in the week offering me a peaceful window between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. when he supposedly wouldn't be there. I didn't believe her for a second, but I didn't care. I wanted my things. I wanted my ring, and I wanted the door closed on this part of my life. My dad insisted on coming. My best friend insisted too. So at 10:15 sharp, the three of us pulled into the parking lot. I unlocked the apartment door with the key Oliver had forgotten was still mine. And just as I expected, he was there. Not alone either. His mother, his sister, two of his friends I'd never met, all sitting in the living room like they were holding court. "I thought you'd be gone," I said, my voice steady. Oliver stood. I changed my mind. "We need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about," I replied, moving past him. "I'm here for my things." My dad hovered near me. His jaw clenched. My best friend kept her phone out, ready to record if anything escalated. She didn't say it out loud, but I knew exactly what she was thinking. Let them try something. I began gathering my clothes, my books, my documents, everything that belonged to me. The silence in the apartment was suffocating, heavy with unspoken accusations. Then Oliver's mother broke it. "What about the ring?" I paused. "What about it?" I asked without turning around. "It's his," she said firmly. "He gave it to you. It belongs to him now." "It was a conditional gift," I said, "based on marriage. No marriage means it goes back to my family. That's the law in most states." Oliver folded his arms, leaning back on the couch like a smug king on a cheap throne. "Yeah, well," he said, "we'll see what a judge says." I turned. "Where is it?" He stared at me with defiance. "Safe." "That was my grandmother's ring," I said, feeling my voice go cold. "I need it back." His mother sniffed. "Maybe Oliver should keep it. Compensation for emotional distress." My dad stepped forward, slowly, purposefully. "That ring belonged to my mother," he said, voice like steel. "You will give it back. Now." Oliver's mother scoffed. "Or what? You'll take us to small claims court. Good luck proving it was conditional." She wasn't entirely wrong. We didn't have written documentation. The ring had been a heartfelt gesture passed down through generations based on trust and intention. But Oliver's mother underestimated something far more powerful than paperwork, my willingness to burn money just to make a point. "Fine," I said flatly. "Keep the ring. I'll see you in court." Oliver blinked. His mother's smirk faltered. His sister looked uncomfortable. "You're bluffing," Oliver said. "Try me," I replied. "It'll cost me more in lawyer fees than the ring's worth. But I'll do it, just so you'll have to hire one too. And unlike your family, I have savings that don't depend on other people's checks clearing." His face turned crimson. His sister suddenly spoke up. "Just give her the ring. This is stupid." Oliver's mother snapped, "Don't you dare. She owes us." My dad's voice cut like a knife. "My daughter owes you nothing. Your son insulted us publicly. She canceled a gift she owed you nothing for. You don't get to demand anything." A tense standoff followed, anger vibrating through the room like electricity. Finally, Oliver's sister groaned and muttered, "I'm not dealing with this," before dragging Oliver into the bedroom. I heard a drawer slam. A moment later, Oliver stormed out and threw something at me. Literally threw it. I caught it midair, the ring small and cold and heavy with history. "I hope you're happy," he spat. I closed my fist around the ring. "Happier than I'd be married to you." We packed the rest of my things in 3 trips. Not once did Oliver or his mother help. They just stood by the window, watching like losing spectators in a game they thought they'd already won. When my dad closed the trunk on the final load, he turned to me with eyes softer than they'd been in weeks. "I'm proud of you," he said. It hit deep, and it hurt a little too, because I realized he'd been carrying fear not for himself but for me. Fear that I'd go back. fear that I'd accept Oliver's apology or excuse or manipulation. But I didn't, and he was proud. The next few days brought new battles. The apartment lease was one of them. Oliver sent me a text demanding I continue paying my half until the lease ended in 4 months. "You're on the lease," he wrote. "You're legally obligated." He was technically right, and the technicality annoyed me. I contacted a lawyer friend. He confirmed that since both names were on the lease, we were both responsible, but he also added, "If both names are on the lease, both of you have equal right to live there. If you wanted to move back in, he couldn't stop you." I didn't want to move back in, but the idea gave me leverage. I texted Oliver, "You're right, I'm on the lease, so I'll be stopping by daily to check on my legal residence unless you want to negotiate a different arrangement." His reply came seconds later, "That's harassment." No, I wrote, "That's the law." 3 days later, he offered to take over the full rent if I signed away my right to the apartment. I countered, "Pay me $3,600 4 months of my half up front and I'll sign." He refused at first, called it extortion, threatened to get a lawyer, told me I was being petty. I didn't budge. The next morning he paid the $3,600, and I signed. Walking away from that apartment balance felt like walking away from the last anchor holding me to him. By the end of the week, another storm rolled in the wedding vendor deposits. Photographer, $2,800, caterer, $5,000, DJ, $800, florist, $1, $200, total $9,800. We had split most of the deposits from a joint wedding account, non-refundable. Oliver sent a spreadsheet with one line highlighted, "Your half for $900. Please Venmo me." I replied, "No. You caused the cancellation," he shot back. "No, I wrote, you did." He threatened to sue. My lawyer friend said he didn't have a case, and he knew it. The fractures in our friend group came next. Most reached out to ask what happened. I told them the truth. He called my parents low-class trash. 6 couples took my side. 2 took his pretentious college friends who'd always acted like my parents were beneath them. But one message from a supposedly neutral friend struck me. I'm not surprised. He said similar things about my husband's family last year. He has a pattern. A pattern. I stared at that message for a long time. It was the first moment I realized the truth. I hadn't lost the love of my life. I had escaped him. The week after Oliver paid me to leave the lease felt strangely calm, like the eye of a hurricane. For the first time in months, I could breathe without bracing for the next argument, the next guilt trip, the next subtle dig at my background or my parents. But peace never lasts long when you've tangled yourself with entitled people. They always find a new angle, a new demand, a new way to drag you back into their chaos. And right on schedule, the next blow came in the form of the joint wedding account. We had opened it together months earlier. We both deposited money into it, supposedly for our future. When the relationship ended, the account sat at $8,200. I knew exactly how much of that was mine. I also knew Oliver would fight me for every cent. My lawyer friend sat across from me at a cafe while I pulled up the account records. "You put in $6,000, he said, reviewing the numbers. He put in $2,200. Legally on a joint account, you're each entitled to half. But courts often return contributions to the original depositor, especially in a breakup situation like this. So I can take my $6,000. You can and you should. It's your money." So I transferred $6,000 into my personal account. The remaining $2,200 stayed there for him. 15 minutes later, he texted, "Where is the money you stole from me?" I typed back. I withdrew my contributions. "The $2,200 left is yours." "This is illegal, Linda. I'll take you to court." "Go ahead. My lawyer friend says you'll lose." He didn't reply after that. Maybe because he knew I was right. Maybe because he finally realized I wasn't going to be intimidated anymore. But if he was retreating, his parents certainly weren't. 2 days later, Oliver's father called me. His number flashed on my phone like a warning sign. I didn't want to pick up, but I also didn't trust him not to show up somewhere uninvited the way his wife had. So I answered. "Linda," he said in a tone that was supposed to sound calm but carried the tremble of restrained anger. "We need to talk. Face to face." I almost laughed. The last time one of them wanted a discussion, she had shown up at my office screaming about a canceled cruise like she was reporting a crime. But I agreed, because I wanted this chapter closed, completely. We met at a small coffee shop. He arrived wearing a tailored suit, as if he wanted to remind everyone and me exactly where he stood in life. He didn't order anything, just sat down across from me, fingers laced, gaze stern. "This has gotten out of hand," he began. I held his stare. "Your son started it." "My daughter," he corrected sharply. "My family, our family. You've cost us more than you understand." I felt a flicker of bitter amusement. Money. Always money. They never cared about the words, the insult, the disrespect. They cared about the cruise, the deposits, the losses, the inconvenience. He continued, leaning in. Oliver is a mess. My wife is humiliated. You have turned this into a public spectacle. Your son publicly called my parents trash, I said evenly. All I did was refuse to marry someone who thinks my family is beneath his. He apologized. He insisted. No, I replied. He explained. There's a difference. His jaw tightened. We come from different backgrounds. There are bound to be misunderstandings. Backgrounds don't excuse cruelty, I said. Your son made his beliefs very clear, and so did your wife. There was a beat of silence he didn't know how to fill. So I filled it. Do you think my parents are low-class trash? His eyes widened for a moment before he caught himself. Of course not. Does your wife? He didn't answer. And that silence said everything. I leaned back. I'm not marrying into a family that disrespects mine. End of story. What about the money he pushed? The cruise? The rent buyout? The wedding account? You cost us over $15,000. I cost you nothing, I replied. Your son cost himself a marriage. Your wife cost herself a free cruise. Your family cost itself access to me. Those are consequences. He looked stunned, as if no one had ever spoken to him like an equal, let alone told him he was responsible for his own problems. He stood abruptly, muttering, "This is vindictive." No, I said, this is self-respect. He walked out without another word. I didn't watch him go. The days that followed came with a new wave of unrest. Oliver's extended family, his coworkers, his friends, people I had barely interacted with. They all found ways to contact me one by one, texts, voicemails, DMs, emails. Some lectured me. Some tried guilt. Some pretended neutrality. Some repeated whatever story Oliver had fed them. Some nonsense about me overreacting to a stressful moment. I didn't argue with any of them. I didn't explain. I didn't justify. I responded to every message with the exact same line. He called my parents low-class trash at a family dinner. If you think that's acceptable, we have nothing to talk about. Most people went silent after that. But not everyone. A few insisted everyone makes mistakes, or he didn't mean it, or you shouldn't throw away love over one comment. So I asked each of them a single question. Would you marry someone who called your parents trash? Not a single person answered. As the noise settled, pieces of truth began emerging, unexpected, unrequested, undeniable. People reached out with stories I'd never heard. A college friend wrote, Oliver refused to come to my wedding because the venue was basic. We stopped inviting him to things. A coworker added, he always complained about clients with unrefined backgrounds. His own cousin said he's been unbearable since getting engaged. Keeps talking about how he's marrying up. Marrying up. I stared at those words longer than I should have. All that time I had been so busy trying to fit into his world, I didn't realize he thought my world was beneath him. It hit me then, the slow dawning realization. I hadn't lost anything. I had escaped it, escaped him, escaped the life he would have dragged me into, one where my parents were always second class, where my background was a burden, where my presence was tolerated only when it didn't embarrass them. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. What I lost was just noise. What I gained was clarity. And clarity is priceless. 3 weeks after the dinner, that detonated my engagement, the dust finally began to settle. Not because people stopped talking, but because I stopped listening. There's a moment in every disaster when you realize the wreckage isn't going to rebuild itself, and the only thing left to do is walk away before you start trying to glue the shattered pieces back together out of habit. That moment arrived quietly for me. No dramatic scene, no final text, no sudden revelation. Just one morning, when I woke up in my tiny studio apartment and realized it was the first day I hadn't checked my phone to see if Oliver had contacted me. He still did, of course, through every means left available to him. Not directly anymore. I'd blocked him everywhere. But there are always ways for determined people to bleed into your life. His extended family, his college friends, random acquaintances, coworkers I barely remembered meeting, even people I'd never met who somehow decided I owed them an explanation. They all had opinions. They all had advice. They all had reasons why I should forgive him, meet with him, hear him out. I gave the same response every time. He called my parents low-class trash in public. If you think that's acceptable, we don't need to talk. Most disappeared after that. A few tried again with everyone makes mistakes or you're being vindictive. So I asked each of them, would you marry someone who said that about your parents? None answered, not one. And that silence told me everything I needed to know about the people I wanted in my life and the ones I didn't. His mother tried one more dramatic push, Someone must have convinced her that a grand gesture was necessary because one afternoon a bouquet of overly expensive roses appeared on my parents' doorstep, along with a long, flowery card written in looping cursive. I am deeply sorry for my words and actions. I hope someday you can forgive me. My mom hesitated, torn between her gentle nature and the memory of that awful dinner. She picked up the flowers, as if they were fragile, as if sincerity might suddenly bloom inside them. My dad took one look at the card grabbed the entire bouquet, walked outside, and dumped it straight into the compost bin. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. There are moments when silence speaks louder than apology. Oliver kept trying to reach me too. Even after being blocked everywhere, even after my boss told him to stop showing up at my office, even after security put him on the do not admit list for the building. He sent long emails to my work address deleted without reading. He left voicemails from unknown numbers deleted without listening. He even tried to contact my dad, who hung up on him before he finished saying hello. The final attempt came through his sister. "Please talk to him," she begged, in a message that popped up from a number I didn't recognize. "He's devastated. He knows he messed up. He's learned his lesson. Give him another chance." I answered only once. He didn't make a mistake. He revealed who he is. Tell him to learn his lesson with someone else. She didn't message again. What surprised me more than anything was how the emotional storm inside me transformed. The first few days were filled with disbelief, then anger. Sharp, bright anger that made everything feel too loud. But slowly that fire burned itself out. The anger dissolved. The shock lifted. And what remained was not emptiness, but something clearer, something steadier. Sadness, yes, but not the kind that wrecks you. The kind that tells you the story you thought you were living was never real in the first place. There were good memories, quiet mornings, shared jokes, little routines, but they were suddenly shaded by the realization that those moments existed only when my background, my family, my world didn't interfere with his. I started seeing a therapist around that time. Not because I felt broken, but because I wanted to understand why I had ignored all the little comments, the subtle digs, the almost jokes that didn't feel like jokes at all. Why I kept convincing myself it was stress or pressure or insecurity instead of what it really was. People don't become cruel under stress, my therapist said. Stress reveals the cruelty that was already there. The truth hit me harder than I expected. My parents helped me settle into my new studio. It was small, barely big enough for a bed, a desk, and a kitchen table that wobbled when you leaned on it too hard. But it was mine. It didn't come with judgment or conditions. I could breathe in it. I spent evenings rediscovering myself, my real interests, not the ones I pretended to enjoy to fit into Oliver's world. I remembered I liked greasy diners, not pretentious brunch places, dive bars with bad lighting, not wine tasting events where no one smiles, baseball games, late night drives, cheap pizza, simple things, honest things. One night, I sat on my little balcony legs tucked beneath me, watching the city lights flicker. My phone buzzed occasionally with random notifications, but not from him, not anymore. And for the first time, the buzzing felt like background noise instead of a threat. My parents stopped apologizing, stopped wondering if maybe they'd done something wrong, and started smiling again. My dad grilled in the backyard like he used to. My mom replanted her garden with fresh herbs and bright flowers. We had dinner together, just the three of us, and we didn't talk about Oliver once. We talked about normal things, real things, things that mattered. That night, sitting under the soft glow of the porch light, I felt a peace I hadn't felt in years. People asked me if I regretted ending the engagement, if maybe I acted too fast, if maybe I could have forgiven him. But they didn't see my mother's face when Oliver called her trash. They didn't see my father's hands tremble. They didn't feel the quiet fracture inside me when the person I loved looked at my family like they were beneath him. I didn't just lose a fiancé, I lost an illusion, and I gained clarity. In total, I lost about $1,400 between canceled deposits, the venue fee, and the money I gave up trying to remove myself from the lease. A painful number, yes. A lot of money. More than I ever wanted to spend on a lesson. But it bought me freedom. It bought me truth. It bought me